Hey, Denver homeowners, what if I told you there's a way you can make an extra $50,000 on the sale of your home with no headaches, no upfront costs, and zero risk? Probably sounds a little too good to be true, but that's what we've been doing for the last 15 years for about 30 homeowners every single year. And I decided to take an exact case study where we did this for a homeowner in Arvada. And I'm going to break down exactly what we did, the before numbers, the after numbers, and just walk you through our process. My name's Alex Saldana. I've been a local Denver agent since 2010. Let me just start where we started with Scott with pictures of the house. So when Scott first called us, he just walked through his house, and what you're seeing are the before photos, okay? Just standard house, nothing crazy, older kitchen, original oak cabinets, right? A little bit tired looking appliances, tired looking countertop. Floors were a little bit rough around the edges, right? They definitely needed some work to them. And it's just a house that they had owned since it was built, I believe, back in the 90s. So, it had some kind of rough edges. They had lived in there. And so this is where we start analyzing and consulting with our clients to find out, okay, what is it that we have to do to this property to increase its value to maximum potential? Now, Scott was also meeting with other agents. He was meeting with other companies. I believe Open Door or Orchard was one of them, to really find out how much he could get for his house in its current condition, right? And he was coming up with suggestions from other agents around 8 to 825. So after selling costs, he'd be netting maybe 750 to 775 all said and done, right? And that was just kind of cleaning up the property, decluttering, getting it on the market, your traditional sales route, right? Now, I want to show you the comps that we looked at because this is where we start. What exactly is top of the market for your house? And I always start with square footage. Okay. So this is a two-story home, and this property here is 3,400 total square feet. Okay. Now, when an appraiser looks at the property, they're going to measure within 20%, give or take, of your square footage. So when we broke it down into his neighborhood. So I'm going to show you his exact neighborhood here, right? He's off of 64th and west of Kipling and Wadsworth over here. Very small community with only about 100 to 150 homes. So not the easiest property to comp depending on what is actually sold over the last 6 to 12 months. And I had to go back all the way to 12 months to find any other properties that have sold. And what that came up with was a list that looked like this. Okay. We've got the top mark is 1.15 all the way down to 783. Now, these top two that were at a million and a million point 1.15 were both four bedrooms, four baths, same as him. But they were more like 4,000 square feet. Okay. So you're real close to that 20% rule. Now, when an appraiser is pulling up comps for the property, they want at least three solid ones. Okay. So when they're looking at this and they see a property that's 3,600 square feet, one that's 3,000, 3,200, another at 3,000, they're probably going to weight the one at 3,600 and 3,200 more heavily. Okay. So we're kind of throwing away the top two right off the bat. Now, he's lived in the neighborhood his whole life and he understands, like, hey, my house is not those two houses. Okay. Totally get that. Totally respect that. He knows what he's doing. So then let's see, for 970, what kind of condition do we have to be in, and what process did they go through? How long did it take to sell? Everything like that. So they started at 995. They ended up closing at 970. They were on in October of 23. Only took them about a week to go under contract, close for 25 grand less. And then they had a seller concession of $15,000 as well. This information isn't seen by the public. I don't know why, only us brokers can see it. So essentially, reducing another 15,000 off of this brings us to 955. Okay. What kind of condition are we talking about? Good photos on the outside, looks nice. It's right by this little pond there. Outside looks great. Inside looks like refreshed floors throughout, maybe new doors, not original windows to it. Kitchen looks like it's been moderately updated, right? They put in the quartz or marble countertop there. Appliances are white, so not perfectly new, but it does look nice. Like it looks like a well maintained, well cared for home. New paint job throughout, staged well, right up to the trail, right up against open space. Just a nice looking home all throughout. The primary suite is a nice five-piece bath, right? That's a huge selling point in these priced this size home. It's almost expected that you have a five-piece bath in it. Nice deck, great views, right? So again, stacks up. He didn't really have these views, right? So at the end of the day, Can we even get to this price point because of where the house is positioned, right? And we came to the conclusion, no, at the end of the day, even if we were to fix up everything 100%, new kitchens, baths, floors, doors, carpet paint, all that stuff, like we're probably not going to match this price at $1 million or whatever, 955 at the end of the day. But we did think we could get close to around that 900 to maybe 950 would have been pushing it number. And I'm going to show you this communication too, because I'm not making any of this up. And so what we decided to do was come up with a renovation plan, right? To say, okay, if we were to do A, B, and C to your property, can we get you above that 900 mark? So he believed in our current market, he could get around 800 to 825. And that was from multiple different sources. This gentleman had friends who were also real estate agents. And so he had some pretty good sources to say, hey, 8 to 8 and 25 is about top of the market without having to do much to it. Just clean it up, right? Well, what does that look like at the end of the day? Well, after your typical selling expenses, I usually tell people take off 6.5% off the top. That's agent fees and about another 1% for title insurance, just to build yourself a little bit of a cushion there. So with his current plan, he was going to net around 750 to around 770. Okay. Well, we went through the property with a fine tooth comb and said, you know what? We think we can pull you to that 900, maybe nine and a quarter mark, right? And we think it's going to take $58,000 to get there. And I'll show you the rehab scope here in a moment. And then we also gave this person $15,000 in cash to get out of the house into their next property. So that way we could do the work quickly and efficiently, right? It's a pain in the butt to paint your whole house while you're living in there or to redo the floors while you're living in there. So we had no problem fronting some more cash to them to be able to help them move on. So after this work is completed, between 9 and 925 as a list price, hopefully a sales price, after we're paid back for the rehab at closing, then the seller would walk away with approximately 783 to 807,000. So already about a good 40 to $50,000 more than what they were currently projecting. So now what I'm showing you is the internal communication between me and my partner who run our fix and list program. He is our GC. He's also my managing broker. And this is word for word exactly what he said. I'm not filtering out anything here. Met with Scott today, nice guy, wanting to sell and downsize. He's talking with other agents and open door, etc. He really likes the idea of us coming in and doing some work to his place and selling it for him. I think he's a little inflated, as they all are, which I'm not telling you guys anything that's groundbreaking. Every seller thinks their house is worth the most, right? That's just how we get as sellers, right? I'm the same way on our houses. Just happens with what it will sell for. But hey, I'm wrong all the time. He wants to push 875, maybe 900. And before you say it, yes, I think he'd have to be fully updated to get that number, right? Eric, my partner, a lot more conservative than I am. I understand, on the real estate side, that sometimes you have to push it a little bit because if you don't ask, you're not going to get it, but you have to be within reasonable limits of what you can get. Okay. But he agrees he wants to get it done ASAP to avoid the election nonsense. I did set the tone that we can push it, but as long as you know it may sell for 825 or maybe less. He knows the market will decide it. So their conversation went and he went, hey, we could do all this stuff, but at the end of the day, you could still sell for eight and a quarter because no one is in charge of what the buyers are doing in the market. Interest rates were really high at that point. We really don't know what's going to happen at the end of the day. We can just use our best judgment from doing this for so long. Okay. So under promise, over deliver. Okay. That's our MO. He knows the market will decide it. Okay. He attached our calculator to this, but we can talk about it. Basically, flooring, paint, deck repainting, countertops throughout the house, painting cabinets, landscape cleanup, a little mud jacking on the front walkway. Basically, a $44,000 renovation with an $11,300 in loan and management fee. That is our profit. That is his profit, I should say, for doing the entire project, fronting the money, all that stuff. We are very transparent about how much money we make, right? So it's about what, 20-ish, 25% on loading the money and doing all the work. That's our GC fee essentially. And we just put that all out there for you. If you don't like it, sorry, we got to make money. Very rough numbers. Then try to shoot for the moons and likely end up lower, but it's a higher price neighborhood in general with a pond out the back door. Okay. So what ended up happening was we ended up having a total budget of $58,000. Okay. That's what the numbers you saw previously were. This is the final stuff: painting interior walls, trim and baseboard, painting all the kitchen and vanity cabinets throughout the house, install new quartz kitchen countertops with a new sink, install new quartz countertop at secondary bathroom on upper level, install new LVP flooring in master bathroom and shower toilet room of secondary upstairs bath, refinish existing hardwood flooring, new carpet, new bathroom faucets, new fixtures throughout the house, new light fixtures throughout the house, new interior door hardware. We had a couple of 30-yard dumpsters we needed to do. We had to repair some concrete. We had some deck issues to handle, some landscaping, tree trimming, a number of things. And then we refinished all the bathtubs, shower pans, shower walls, uh, removed all the wallpaper from the kitchen and textured the walls. Like, we did a fair amount of work here. And that 58,000 is everything included, including our profit for doing the work, right? So now we jump in, start doing the works. Everybody's on the same page. We have all our contracts drafted, our listing agreement drafted, signed, and we're in full go mode. Okay. It's time to get this work done. Get your house prepped to go on the market. Now, before we go onto the market, right, there's other properties that have come up, there's other properties that have closed. So we might make some tweaks and adjustments by the time we're ready to go to the market. So now, just to show you what we had signed in paper prior to doing the renovations of what it could go on the market for, we have this sign: 6306 Holman Street, and the listing price was 900,000. Okay. At that time, that's what he wanted out of the house, knowing that, hey, it might go all the way down to 825, but maybe we can push it by the time it comes on the market. Now, this communication happened right before we went live onto the MLS. Okay. All the work is completed. The house is as good as it's going to look. It was staged. Everything was 100% done. Photos taken. We know what the final product looks like. Okay. So that's when he reaches out, and this always happens right before, and everybody wants to push it a little bit more. Okay. But it's got to be within reason. So he said, I'd prefer to strategize list price so we get lookers slash offers, but don't want to leave large money on the table. If we start at 875, I can't imagine a bidding war would get us to the stratosphere, 950 or something. So he's telling me $950,000 is the stratosphere. Okay. But 915 or 920 might. Thoughts? So I have my opinions on that, and my response is generally the same. Hey, it's your house at the end of the day, but the longer we sit on the market, the less you're going to sell for. We got to price it right out of the gate within reason, or else we're going to end up losing a lot more money down the road in 2, 3, 4, 5 months from now if we're still sitting on the market. So it's okay to be greedy, but it's my job to keep that greed in check. Okay. Now, to show you what the house looked like after the work was done, okay, this is when we were in debate mode. This is the property, the outside, the inside. Floors are refinished, nice kind of clear coat on them. We went white throughout the entire house, right? We don't try to reinvent the wheel. We look at what all the new home builders are doing and just copy what they're doing, right? They spend millions of dollars on figuring out what people want. And so we just go copy all the big boys out there, right? Um, New carpet throughout, new flooring throughout, new light fixtures staged properly in the kitchen. We didn't replace the cabinets. We painted them. We put a new hardware on them, and we did quartz countertops. Of course, new light fixtures in the kitchen. We removed wallpaper here. We did some retexturing. We basically spent, a good amount of money in the kitchen. Okay. So go through everything else, just painted, lighten it up, freshen everything up, just make it look as nice as it can. And then we've got the backyard. We had to do a fair amount of deck work here because it was getting a little rough around the edges, some rotted boards, did some landscaping, sprucing up. And there's the lake out of his back door. So they see these pictures, everything looks beautiful. It's probably as good as the home has looked in the last 15 to 20 years. So what happens? They want to push the price even more from that 925 mark. We go on the market at 990 against my better judgment, but hey, at the end of the day, it's your home. You're in charge of the decisions. I'm here to try to help you to get to where you want to be. Now, there was no other houses on the market at the time. So we kind of had control over the visibility of things, right? That played in our favor. If we would have had competition at 950, 940, 930, something like that, like this would not have happened. So, I'd rather be lucky than good any day. And we got a little bit lucky that there was no competition on the market. All right. So to come back to what actually happened here. Originally, he thought he could get 800 to 825. He would net 750 to 770. If we came in and did the fix and list, we thought he could sell for 9 to 9 and a quarter with 58 grand in rehab while giving him $15,000 in cash, and he would net somewhere around 783 to 807, netting him an additional 35 to $60,000. Okay. But we're not in charge of the buyer pool. We don't know what's going to happen at the end of the day. Now, what happened at the end of the day? We listed at 990,000. We put in 58,000. We gave him $15,000 in cash. We got it under contract at 970 minus $2,500 in concessions. So essentially 967.5. Okay. And then at the end of the day, after all the selling expenses, after all the rehab costs, they netted $846,450, a whopping 75 to $98,000 more than they would if they would have just put their home on the market. Why is that a range? Because, well, we don't know if it would have sold for 800, 8 and a quarter. Heck, even if it sold for 850 in its current condition, right? They still netted $50,000 or more by the end of this entire thing. Everybody wins. Uh, they made money. They made out like a bandit. And just to show you what sort of time frame we worked with, right? Because that's the next question is how long does it take to get your payday? Well, the listing agreement was signed on March 13th. The listing date was May 2nd. We were under contract May 27th. We closed July 11th. The construction time frame from agreement to completion was 49 days. The selling time frame from on the market to close was 69 days, which was a total of 118 days. Okay. So just under 3 months. If you are considering selling, go ahead and scan this QR code, fill out some basic information. We'll consult together to kind of figure out what the highest and best use for your property is. Is it to put in a full rehab job, $75,000 to $100,000, or does it make more sense just to do a $10,000 to $15,000 paint job? What's going to net you more at the end of the day and what works for you? And heck, if you need some cash up front to get onto your next living situation, to catch up on bills, whatever it is, we've got you covered. We don't collect a dime until the property closes. Okay. We'll act as a small lender for you. We'll act as your GC. We'll act as your real estate agent to help you sell the property for as much as possible.